The assertion that the British plundered $45 trillion from India has raised eyebrows among credible historians. This is a joke. This claim that seems comically impossible, as it would have led to widespread starvation in the Indian population and hindered growth. To understand this, we need to analyze the Indian economy between 1765 and 1938. The mentioned numbers are extremely high, suggesting that the British took 95.7% of India's economy, leaving only 4.3% for the Indians to manage with. Reputable Indian historians and economists have cast doubt on this assertion, challenging its credibility with substantial evidence. Renowned Indian economist, Amartya Sen, states, while it is true that the British extracted resources from India, the notion of a staggering $45 trillion is both exaggerated and misrepresentative of historical reality. Similarly, historian Ramachandra Guha remarks, such astronomical figures lack grounding in meticulous archival research and often serve as clickbait rather than informed analysis. Even beyond Indian scholars, experts like British historian William Dalrymple emphasize, economic interactions between Britain and India were multifaceted and cannot be reduced to a simple looting narrative. The $45 trillion claim is implausible and fails to account for the complexities of historical economic relationships. It's evident that the extravagant $45 trillion figure lacks substantial backing and has been a subject of controversy among reputable historians. As we delve into complex historical narratives, it's vital to rely on credible research rather than sensationalized claims. The claim that the British extracted $45 trillion worth of resources from India seems comically impossible. This assertion implies widespread starvation in the Indian population and hindered growth. To understand this, we need to analyze the Indian economy between 1765 and 1938. The mentioned numbers are extremely high, suggesting that the British took 95.7% of India's economy, leaving only 4.3% for the Indians to manage with. Surprisingly, after India gained independence in 1948, the British economy accelerated rather than facing a severe downturn. This challenges the notion that India was the sole source of Britain's economic success. Instead, it appears that India's influence was not as pivotal as claimed. In fact, India's economic drain on Britain became more evident as Britain sought to control India. It's important to note that while some may attribute India's poverty to British rule, it's equally valid to recognize that many factors, including choices made by Indians themselves, contributed to the country's economic situation. Blaming the British can serve as a psychological coping mechanism, but it's essential to consider the broader context. The narratives of rape, revenge, and scapegoating are prevalent throughout history. In the Indian context, blaming the British for various woes can be seen as a form of scapegoating. However, British rule did coincide with periods of economic and population growth, as well as increased literacy rates in India. While some claim that England oppressed India, it's important to differentiate between fact and far-right hate speech. This narrative can be both factually and morally incorrect. It's crucial to acknowledge that historical interpretation can be influenced by various biases, including envy, racism, and political motivations.